Hey, welcome. I'm Herogetsu, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. This is my first in a series where I'll basically be talking about ideas around a specific topic, and I try to flesh out a piece of it as much as I can. The goal is to use this as both a GDD, a game design document, and a way to put my ideas in video form to get feedback before I implement them. Ideally, by talking it out with you, the viewers, we can come up with a great idea together based off an idea I originally had. As I make more of these videos, I'll throw out some what I'll call what if ideas, and those aren't really the things I'm going to put in my game, possibly, but I'll probably make those in a separate series or something. The Guiding Light series is the pieces of the game that I actually do want to put in my game. With all that being said, let's actually talk about today's topic. But I feel I must say, just for context, I want my game to be completely built around RPG stats, but in this video, I'll focus on the main stat, which is stamina. I know that stamina in games have really blown up thanks to the Soulsborne series, and I just want to say that while I'll be inspired by some of the games by FromSoft, my game is not a Souls-like. Honestly, in all honesty, my game is more inspired by fighting games. I have really fallen in love with fighting games over the last few years, starting with games like Smash, but the fighting game I play the most currently is Street Fighter 6. At the recording of this video, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero also came out, so I'm also playing that quite a bit. I want my game to be a 3D platformer currently, because it is my first game, and I want to focus on movement, because that is the foundation of what all my future games will be built around. In the future, I would like my game to feel like a fighting game, but with exploration and platforming. Those are future main pillars later on. But currently, this one is mainly focused around platforming. But I'll flesh all that out in much later videos. The main goal of the game is to make it feel as close to an anime that's focused around special powers such as ki, chakra, nin, or magic as possible. In a lot of anime, you'd see or hear examples of when the character are focusing their power to perform their superhuman feat, such as defend themselves from what would kill or at least severely injure a normal person. You are told by someone watching, or even by the characters themselves during like a monologue, that if they didn't focus their ki or magic or nin or whatever, they would have been laid out or taken out of the game or beat up or whatever. Their powers aren't just for combat, though. It is useful for general things like moving around, which is what I'll do. We'll use Naruto for this example because it will be easy to explain and you could watch the anime or read the series. A person who does not know how to use chakra can't walk on trees or water, but by focusing their chakra, they are able to. They can use their chakra to stand anywhere that's a surface and stick to it as if it was normal ground. They can even do this standing upside down on a ceiling, for example. Another use of a special power / resource would be high speed movement, to make it seem as if they are capable of teleporting, but they are just moving really fast by focusing their chakra, nin, magic, whatever. I originally got the idea to build my whole game around stamina though by watching Hunter x Hunter. That anime, in my opinion, the special abilities the best. I won't go into details because it would make this video so much longer than what I intend for it to be. Just watch the anime. It's a great watch anyway, and then you'll have much more context for what I am trying to accomplish. In the game, I want to have 4 different key forms / states. For now, that's how I'll refer to them as a whole until I come up with a better name. If I come up with a better name. Each state is mapped to the D-pad, the thing that's right next to your left analog stick. The names for each state are as follows: release, focus, relax, and defense. I go back and forth on replacing relax with recovery though. I'll explain in a moment the purpose of each state, starting with focus because it'll be the fastest. The focus state in its most simple form is the way to recover lost stamina that's been spent. I want every state to have a passive and active version. The focus passive state is slowly recovering stamina in the background while you're doing whatever you're doing. While the active state makes you stay in that one spot, but it's the fastest way of recovering stamina since you're focusing on that one task. Think Dragon Ball Z for this example. It'll start off slow, but the longer you hold it, the faster it'll recover up until, it plateaus. The way to trigger every version of each state is by simply pressing or holding the respective states button. As you can probably imagine, just tapping the focus button activates its passive while holding the button activates its active state. The next state is defense. At the cost of stamina, all attacks or damage you would have received are reduced by a little. Also, I think it would be a cool idea if the defense passive state grants poise or hyper armor so you could continue with your current action at the cost of stamina. Think like in Dark Souls 1, when you have a high poise stat, you wouldn't stumble around or react to damage until they did enough damage to make you flinch. That's the passive version, while the active version would instead root you to the floor and reduce all damage that you would have taken by the amount of stamina you have remaining. This might seem like it would be broken, and to be honest, it might be. But balance isn't what I'm aiming for. I'm aiming for what's the most fun and coolest way to play the game. I would also like to say that this is not a way to get out of danger every single time. You can't activate it in the air, so let's say you jumped and someone shot you. The best you could do is activate the passive version for reduced damage and, hyper armor to keep you moving. But, if you got hit by a trap or something while you're being airborne, you couldn't just activate your active version. You're not on the ground. Another thing is that this is a tool, and tools come with costs. If you're defending against an attack that normally would have killed you, for example, and you had the same amount of stamina, you would survive with no damage to your health bar, but you'd be out of stamina completely, and maybe you'd be in a state of, fatigue, for example, so you wouldn't be able to move anyway for a few moments. Now, let's say you have less stamina than you do health, you would be out of stamina, and whatever the difference of your stamina versus health is the damage you receive from the attack. Since your stamina couldn't handle the full attack on its own, you take a little bit of health damage. The third state is relax or recovery. I thought it was important to have a state that's meant to keep you in a neutral state where nothing is happening to your character, and that's what the relax state is. A state where nothing is going on. No stamina is being spent or gained. I thought it about a long time, and I'm still not sure about it, but I decided I should have a state that does something just in case that I think would be cool. So I made recovery as a backup version of relax, just in case I would decide that relax is trash and I should make this state actually do something. Recovery is just recovering your health passively. That's it. That's the passive version. The passive version is very slow since it happens in the background, while the active version is significantly faster, but again, you have to be in a single spot like defense, and it's a slow start while also being very expensive to your stamina's cost. The reason I went with recovery is because I wanted to not use consumables in my game, like an Estus Flask from Dark Souls. I wanted something that would also reward someone for good gameplay and recognizing the best time to take a break. it also had to play into stamina usage since that's the core of the gameplay. Recovery is also just something I think is cool because if you're about to die, you can get back into the fight by using your own resource, stamina, to give you a second chance. And if you want to get that second chance again, you have to be good enough to stay alive until your stamina recovers, like how you would see in certain animes. See? I know there's a few quote unquote weaknesses with something like this, like, oh, the player could just run around and never get hit again until he recovers stamina, but that's something you see in anime. And honestly, I don't see anything wrong with that. I shouldn't have to tell the player what's the best way for them to have fun. I just make the tools. They make their own fun. My job is to give the players tools to have fun. I want to make a game that encourages builds and player freedom, which is why I built it around RPG stats. Yes, in this case, we are talking about my main stat, which is stamina. So you might also feel like stamina is a required state. My final state, which is by far my favorite since there's a little more complexity going on with it, is the release date. I won't talk about the active version yet because it's a spoiler for the game, but I will explain the passive version. The passive version is basically your character at its most coolest and strongest. In this state, all your normals and specials have extended range, and you have an extended normal combo. Think similar to fighting games. All your attacks now also do 1.5 times their normal damage, and your specials now do their EX versions with, the same control inputs. Think Hadoken, for example, in Street Fighter, but now in the release state, you do EX Hadoken. Your jump height is increased and you run faster, as an example. All your basic movement abilities have been enhanced and they would also look more stylish. Let's say you went from a basic jump, now in this EX version, you would do like a flip, just as an example. All that has to come with a cost. Stamina is being drained pretty rapidly during this state. If you take damage, you receive more damage than you normally would. I'm thinking like 1.5 the normal damage right now to offset all the positives that come with just activating. And maybe also every time you get hit, you also lose stamina. I don't know, that might be too punishing, but that could be fun in its own way. I'm not sure if I should make any more negatives to this state, honestly, though. But if you think of something, let me know in the comments. Oh, and if you're enjoying the video so far, leave a like and subscribe to actually see me put some of the stuff that I've talked about so far into my game. Back on topic though, I think I should actually talk about the held version just a little bit, just so I can get a little feedback on it. The held version requires a bit more work than the others, meaning that this is something you have to hold much longer than the others to feed a bar until you have a minimum requirement to activate it. Think something like Devil May Cry 5's Sin Transformation. You feed that bar with your normal Devil Trigger bar, and then eventually you'll transform. In this state, unlike the other held versions, once activated, you no longer need to hold it because it almost acts like a passive. All of your stats have now been doubled. Yes, you are 2 times stronger than what you were in your normal state. You receive less damage and do more damage. Everything that was positive you got from your passive state carries over with none of the negatives. The negative that does come from this state is the super drastic drain it does on your stamina, allowing you to only use it for a few seconds since your bar is just draining away. I struggle to really make this a state that have good negatives to where it's not oh, I have to do this every time, since it's almost kind of a for free and I win button. I really want good negatives for this because I really like risk reward factors. I think if the player would also lose HP, then maybe then I'd have a risk reward factor. Kind of like the 8 gates in Naruto, for example. At the moment, I look a lot at Dragon Ball Z, specifically the Android saga, which is my favorite saga. Don't come for me. In that saga, Goku has unlocked Super Saiyan and it isn't stable just yet at the beginning of the saga. He hasn't mastered it, but he can activate it whenever he wants to as long as he can get worked up enough to do it. He can't hold this form for long since it's unstable, but he can do everything else at a much, much higher level. He also seems like he can tank a lot more damage, but he doesn't seem to appear to have more health or recover from any of his previous battles with this transformation. Later on in the saga, I believe he mentions after he mastered it, after going into the hyperbolic time chamber, it no longer drains stamina from him, while also he can maintain it significantly longer, almost as easy as breathing. This is something I want for my own character. Okay, I believe I have covered a lot of the things that I wanted to talk about with my states. This is the main focus of my stamina system. Everything my stamina does, it relies on these states, and that's why I built the whole game around it. I really want these to feel like with these 4 states you can make your own kind of builds, you know? Like currently, this is a foundation for all my future games. I want my dream game to be as close to what you see in animes as much as possible. And I feel by working on what you would consider magic or chakra or ki, chi, nen, whatever, you would be able to get pretty close to what you see in anime. The thing that really drew me to this is when I was watching Hunter x Hunter specifically, is when they were training to use Nen for the first time, they were going to a combat situation and they had to focus individually, like when to use their Nen to recover, when to use their Nen to attack, and when to use their Nen to defend. Otherwise, a person hit with Nen and you have no Nen would instantly kill you basically. And wow. I really wanted to focus on having as much control over the player as possible. I didn't want things to feel like it's automatic. I want you to feel like you have full control over everything you do inside my game. Now, it kind of limits a lot of things that I would want because there's just not enough buttons on a controller. I already am going to have to do a lot of compromising because there's just not enough buttons, as I said. But I hope by talking through all of this with you, you now have an understanding of what I want to accomplish with with all my games in the future, including this one. With my game being built around platforming, I have to come up with clever ways of making stamina work, since right now basically all we're doing is movement. I don't know if I'll have combat in this current game, but I'll talk about that later on. But I hope the few examples I have given here makes your brain kind of do a little dance where you can kind of imagine what you could do. And hey, if you come up with your own clever ideas, please let me know. Throw them in the comments. And if you think I'm stupid, tell me too. I sincerely want your opinions. But if you've made it all the way through this video, I appreciate you and I thank you. This has been Herogetsu. Please leave a like and subscribe. And I hope to see you in future videos. Thank you.